Are you about to start or in the middle of a decluttering organization project that really overwhelms you? Today's video is for you. I'm going to share with you some simple principles that I use all the time that help you stay focused, make your space nice as quickly as possible, whilst not burning yourself out in the process. So let's dive in. Hi there friend, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Emmy, and this video today is probably just as much for you clicking on this video as it was for me, my own advice to myself, to be very honest. I'm normally very organized as a person, but there are times in our lives where there's just a little bit too much going on. And if you are on a bit of a decluttering minimalist journey, you probably have already felt this overwhelm at some point where there's just too many things to juggle, too many areas that feel messy, too many parts of your life that feel really overwhelming. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you 3 really simple tips on how I've coped with the last couple of weeks in my own life, and hopefully you find these tips useful, especially for your decluttering overwhelm. So just for some context for those of you who are new here, I live in Melbourne, Australia with my soon-to-be husband and our cat Freya. And in 2022, we made a really big decision to, halfway through 2022 actually, we moved out of our 2-bedroom apartment near the city in Melbourne. We put everything we own in storage, moved in with some family members, and we've been living with them for pretty much 9 months now, whilst we've been waiting for our own house to be built. But if that wasn't enough of a life project, I guess, in getting ready to get the keys to the house sometime in late March, early April this year. By the way, subscribe to the channel if you want to see content around that, because I'll be filming the whole journey of getting into the house, furnishing the house, etc. So that's been a big journey in its own right. We've also had a lot of family visit from overseas over the Christmas period. And we also are getting married next week, which, as you can imagine, is a project in its own right. And we have also purchased a small apartment in Melbourne that we're going to use as an overnight apartment. If you're interested to see how we fixed up this very apartment I'm sitting in at the moment on a budget to basically take it from old and grotty to really, really cute for under $1,000, you might want to make sure that you subscribe below. But as you can probably imagine, this has been pretty big, and it's not just been decluttering, it's been life organization, I guess, but it's also been, especially in this apartment, how to organize it, how to structure it, and how to puzzle our life together. And it made me think of all of you out there who are on your decluttering journey where everything just looks and feels like a mess. So let me share with you what I've been doing to get myself through the last few weeks, and hopefully you find it really useful. So the very first tip, the very first thing you want to do is start with a plan, or more specifically, start with a list. So when it comes to any big project, especially decluttering, let's use the clean out my garage as an example. Cleaning out your garage might sound like one task or one area on your list, but if you start looking at it more closely, you'll realize that declutter or clean out the garage includes perhaps reviewing what's in your spare fridge freezer that you have out there. It could be looking at your sporting equipment, what you're actually using, what you might want to sell, which is a third task, because reviewing the items and selling the items is not the one and the same thing. You might also want to go through your Christmas decor. You might want to go to the shops and get some plastic bins with lids on them so you can store your items. So before we know it, something that feels like one task, emptying the garage or decluttering the garage, has actually turned into 10 subtasks. So my very first tip is to write a list and divide those tasks into chunks. Now, it can be so tempting once you've found an item. Let's say you're in your garage for that example, and you're going through the sporting equipment and you find a piece of equipment that actually belongs in another part of the house. It can be really tempting to stop what you're doing to go and put that item away. But honestly, stick to the one task at the same time. If you are reviewing sporting equipment, review that, put the things that live in a different part of the house to the side, and then add another thing to your list, which is going and putting all the stuff away. It can feel really granular to do this, but the thing about avoiding overwhelm is to focus on one task at the time. And rather than trying to keep it all in your head, just write down the simplest task on your list so you can tick it off later. My second biggest tip is to contain the mess. By that I mean you are inevitably gonna move things around and things are gonna get messy before they get better. You'll see people doing decluttering videos all the time. You might even look at this room around me and go, Emmy, that looks so clean and beautiful. You should see under my kitchen table. There is like toolboxes and packaging material. There are things put away in drawers and cupboards here behind me that you can't see right now, but I'll show it on video to be transparent with you. And the same goes for the temporary house we lived in. Whilst we were getting the items together for this place, we had piles and piles, which I'll show here on the video, of things that were going to this house. And I was staring at that pile for weeks, but it was contained in a corner and I knew that it was only for a limited time. So when you are going through a decluttering project, try to find a place to contain the mess. If you have a spare room or a corner in the garage or somewhere where you can put these items, feel free to chuck any donations straight in the car, in the boot of your car if you can, and take them to be donated the same week. If that's not possible or available to you, accept the simple fact that it's going to be messy before it gets better, but your mind and your family and your heart will often feel better if you can contain it somewhere. So as much as I don't love looking at the mess under my kitchen table, I know that it's only there for a short time until next time we go to our storage unit and we can put some things away. So be kind to yourself and I guess allow the process to unfold and try to just contain the project, which is why point 1 about the list is so important. Just try and contain and finish small little areas as you go along. Next up, we want to give ourselves a realistic timeline. This is a mistake that I often make, and I actually made this very mistake when we picked up the keys to this apartment a couple of weeks ago. I had this giant list written down, in fairness, of the things that I wanted to clean and organize and what needed to happen in what order. But I did that classic thing where I wanted it all done as quickly as possible because I just wanted to land and unpack and settle in a little bit. So the problem is when you do that is that you're actually overwhelming yourself because you haven't given yourself enough time to do the action. For example, if you work full-time or you have family commitments or something else, you are not going to be able to declutter 8 to 10 hours a day because you are going to have to pick up kids at school or be at work meetings or commute to and from work. So be kind to yourself and put a realistic timeline as to how far you think you're going to get with certain projects. It's super common that we think that, oh yeah, we can knock the garage over in one day, and then you get to the end of day one and realize, gosh darn it, I'm going to need to do at least another 2 days out here. That's kind of fine. You can change the timeline as you go, but don't beat yourself up. And like I said in tip number 2, try to contain the mess so you're not taking everything in the house out all at once if you don't have time to put it back before the end of the day. So as you can probably tell, it's only human to sometimes want to bite off more than we can chew. And when it comes to life projects or decluttering projects, it's really not helping us out to get to the outcome. Because usually the driver behind any project like this is that we want to make something better. And usually by the time we're ready to take action, we want to do that straight away. So the timeline thing is so important. And that's where I wanted to also include, I guess, my 4th little bonus tip for you, which is to ask for help. Whether you have friends, family members, your partner, somebody else in your world, more often than not, people are very willing to help us with our process. You can turn cleaning the garage into a fun thing where you buy people pizza or shout them lunch or something if they help you out for the day. And believe it or not, I feel like pretty much any burden is better when it's shared. It's something that I'm not very good at, or I'm rather getting better at asking for help. But for example, when we painted this apartment, my partner and I, actually on Valentine's Day, we just rolled our sleeves up and, you know, we had a couple of drinks, we did some painting, and we actually made it kind of a fun experience, even if we were both really tired. By sharing the load, we'd got it done so much quicker than we would have done if my partner or I was doing it on our own. So there you go. Hopefully you find these tips helpful. They certainly have guided me through the last few weeks and kept me sane at a very busy time in my life. I'm also really excited to take you through the apartment tour of what we've done to this flat. We basically have kitted it out and renovated it for less than $1,000, and it is looking pretty good, if I may say so myself. So I've got an apartment tour coming out very soon. Feel free to click on the link below to subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure that you see that. And please let me know in the comments as well, what are your best tips to stay calm and focused when you do decluttering? Is decluttering overwhelm something that you have experienced? And if so, what did you do to combat it? I love when you guys share your tips below so we can all get better together and stay focused and stay calm. So I hope you have an amazing week, and I look forward to see you in the next video.